Hello there, this is Al24 News, streaming live from Algiers, and coming up next program. Positive test rate in Australia hits 20% high as Omicron cases surge. Hospitalization climbed to more than 1,000 in New South Wales. For the first time since Omicron variants emerged as numbers of PCR tests drops. A major fire broke out at South Africa's seat of parliament in Cape Town early Sunday, sending a thick column of smoke into the sky and threatening the National Assembly building. Flooding in Oman, triggered by heavy rainfall that began on New Year's Eve, has killed 6 people and left several towns completely cut off. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said in the New Year's message that he wants to see an end to the conflict in the east of the country. Hello again and welcome. Those were today's headlines. New Australia COVID-19 cases dipped on Sunday as testing slowed over the holiday weekend, but remained well over 30,000, and hospitalization rose further in the New South Wales as concern grew about potential strain on the national health system. The UK has seen record numbers of daily cases over the festive period. Rising cases numbers have led to large numbers self-isolating and being unable to go to work. This has particularly affected industries where staff are unable to work from home. Boris Johnson has called on ministers to draw up robust contingency plans to tackle coronavirus-related staff absence threatening to disrupt UK businesses and supply chains over the coming weeks. The outbreak of COVID-19 cases and the new variant is still being the hot potato in the world news statistics and death record in this report by Zara Ferjani.
COVID-19 is continuing to spread around the world, with nearly 300 million confirmed cases and more than 5 million deaths across almost 200 countries. Bangladesh on Saturday registered 4 more coronavirus-related deaths and 370 new cases in the last 24 hours. The new cases were detected after testing 15,214 samples around the country. The Philippines started 2022 with 3,617 new COVID-19 cases. The government will tighten coronavirus restrictions in the capital Manila over fears of an exponential growth in cases due to the highly contagious Omicron variant. New York delivered a previously unthinkable level of new COVID cases on Saturday, when the governor's daily report tallied 85,476 positive results in a single day. France became the 6th country in the world to report more than 10 million COVID-19 infections since the outbreak of the pandemic. Health authorities reported 219,126 new confirmed cases in a 24-hour period. French authorities cut the isolation period for fully vaccinated people who test positive to 7 days from 10 days to prevent disruptions in industries for lack of staff. This isolation could be lifted after 5 days in case of a negative test.
In the same line of thought, but this time in Africa, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni announced plans to lift COVID-19 restrictions in January that had been in place since March 2020, including reopening schools, bars and nightclubs, citing rising vacation rates. The East African nation has imposed some of Africa's toughest restrictions in September. Some measures were eased, including allowing the resumption of education for universities and the other post-secondary institutions.
The sports events to be allowed to open with the SOPs, they will have to announce them. The Minister of Education and the ones of Culture, they will have to announce the details. stadiums? Are you going to have full stadium? Are you going? They will give you the details. Number 3, pre-primary, primary and secondary schools will be opened for learners starting with the 10th of January 2021. The Minister of Education and Sports and the Minister of Health to work out applicable SOPs and communicate them. 4, the performing arts, concerts, bars, and discos will be open 2 weeks after the opening of the schools.
The UAE announced on Saturday a travel ban for all its citizens who are not vaccinated against the vaccine of coronavirus. This new measures, a Crisis and Disaster Management Authority, has been stressed on the necessity of obtaining the booster dose for vaccinated citizens based on the national protocol for booster doses. The decision has excluded some medical and excused people who were unvaccinated. A major fire broke out in South African continent Parliament building in Cape Town. In Cape Town early this morning, firefighters were present at the building as large flames and a huge column of smoke were seen at around 7:30 local time of AM. The roof has caught fire and the National Assembly building is also on fire. A spokesperson for the City Emergency Service told AFP it is worth mentioning that no people have been injured in the fire, as it was reported by the security guards. Minister of the Public Works of South Africa has stated some words about this. Let's follow it.
All matters will be investigated. The police have started to investigate. The forensic department is here. Public Works is here. We're all together. But for now, what is important is for us, we can't tell you exactly where the fire started, but we can tell you where we've.
Flooding in Oman triggered by heavy rainfall that began on New Year's Eve has killed 6 people and left several towns completely cut off. Oman TV reported that Saturday a man was found dead and a lot of vehicles after trying to cross Wadi in Ismaili province. The town of these people in Liwa, Suwari, Ismaili, Sora and Wahiba were cut off on the country, as well as received more than 72 millimeters of rainfall. In his annual New Year message, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed defiance amid of buildup of Russian forces on the other side of the country border with Russia. He also said that the main goal in 2022 is to end tension between Russia and Ukraine. Marwa Blayor.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his New Year message that the primary goal for 2022 would be to end the war in the country's east. The fighting, which started more than 7 years ago, has killed over 14,000 people and devastated Ukraine's industrial heartland known as Donbass. Russia seized Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula in 2014, and shortly after cast its support behind a separatist rebellion in the country's east.
We're not scared of any army on another side. No army on the other side of the border frightens us, because a great army on our side of the border protects us.
US President Joe Biden is due to hold talks with Zelensky after speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Biden spoke with Putin over the phone for almost an hour, addressing the Ukraine conflict among other key topics. Putin has pushed for Western guarantees preventing NATO's expansion to Ukraine, and the build-up could reflect an attempt to back up the message. Zelensky's remarks came amid high tensions between Moscow and the West over the troops build-up, and Moscow's demands for broad security guarantees in Europe and Central Asia. Authorities in Kyiv have expressed concerns that Russia could invade Ukraine in the coming weeks. Zelensky said ending the war between Kyiv and Russia-backed separatist formations in parts of eastern Ukraine remains the main goal of his government, promising that next year will be better.
We can say we have returned Crimea to the global agenda, so that the day we can say we have returned Crimea to Ukraine. And it is important that all prisoners are returned.
The Ukrainian president expressed confidence that Crimea would one day be returned to Kyiv's control.
U.S. travel industry continues its overwhelming chaos that most travel witnessed starting from the last month and the early days of the new year 2022. Thousands of flights were cancelled as bad weather and the spike of coronavirus were dominant in the country. Usama Yati.
Air travel continues to be severely disrupted in the United States, with bad weather in parts of the country adding to the impact of the surge in COVID-19 infections fueled by the Omicron variant. Airlines cancelled more than 2,600 U.S. flights on New Year's Day as they faced severe weather across the country and a surge in Omicron infections among the staff.
For me, my flight was canceled from Seattle to Portland, so I did the next best thing and rented a car and white-knuckle drove down.
The issues won't be resolved anytime soon. By Saturday afternoon, the airlines had already cancelled more than 1,000 U.S. flights scheduled for Sunday. Since Christmas Eve, more than 13,700 U.S. flights have been scrapped and thousands more were delayed, according to flight tracking site FlightAware. The travel woes come during what airlines expected to be among the busiest days since the pandemic began. Last year, the Transportation Security Administration screened nearly 580 million people, up 79% from 2020, but still off about 30% from 2019 before the pandemic. The global air travel industry is still reeling from the highly contagious Omicron variant. Many pilots, flight attendants, and other staff are absent from work after contracting COVID-19 or because they are quarantining after coming in contact with someone who has the infection.
Mourners arrived at the St. George Cathedral in Cape Town for the funeral service of Archbishop Desmond Tutu, the latest great hero in his struggle against apartheid, who died at the end of the last week, aged 19. Zara Farjani.
The funeral mass for South African anti-apartheid leader Archbishop Desmond Tutu has taken place at the Anglican Cathedral in Cape Town. Tutu, a Nobel Peace Prize winner who helped end the racist regime in South Africa, died last Sunday, aged 90. President Cyril Ramaphosa described Desmond Tutu as the spiritual father of the new nation.
Archbishop Desmond Tutu was without question a crusader in the struggle for freedom, for justice, for equality and for peace, not only in South Africa, the country of his birth, but around the world as well.
Family, friends and politicians gathered at St. George's Cathedral for Saturday's service, which had limited numbers because of coronavirus restrictions.
Many of the messages we received have said, "Thank you for sharing him with the world." Well, it actually is a two-way street. Because we shared him with the world, you shared part of the love you held for him with us.
The loss of South Africa's well-known freedom fighters leave behind a difficult task for the leaders of the nation to clear the country of corruption and racial divisions and lead the way forward.
Thousands of people rallied in Baghdad to commemorate the second anniversary of the U.S. drone attack that killed a famous Iranian commander and his Iraqi lieutenant. The protesters chanted "Death to America" as they gathered in Baghdad Square to pay tribute to Iran's General Qasem Soleimani, who managed to Quds Force, the Revolutionary Guard External Operation Wing, until the death on January 3, 2020. Zionists conducted drones, or let me say dozens of airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, claiming that Palestinian militants fired barrages of rockets at southern Zionist cities. The pre-dawn raids on Gaza were some of the heaviest seen since the fighting began a week ago. Zionist entity said it hit facilities belonging to militant group Hamas and several commanders' homes, but the main roads where power lines were also damaged. However, there were no immediate reports of casualties following the strike. Due to recent alleged humanitarian rights breaches and coups, the U.S. suspended Ethiopia, Mali, and Guinea from duty-free trade program on Saturday due to human rights breaches in the Tigray area. U.S. President Joe Biden threatens to withdraw Ethiopia from African Growth and Opportunity Act in November following recent calls. Mali and Guinea have been also targeted. Mali's interim authorities proposed to its West African neighbors that a transition back to democracy following a 2020 military coup be extended by 5 years. The foreign minister said in Qanat's broadcast on Saturday, provisional government first agreed 18 months after Assimi Goïta-led overthrow of President Ibrahim Boubacar. He will hold the presidential and legislative election in February 2022. Democratic politician Eric Adams was sworn in mayor of New York City at a Times Square party shortly after the country's largest city celebrated the New Year on Saturday. Adams, 61, faces the formidable challenge of pulling the city out of the pandemic and takes office, and the city battled record numbers of COVID-19 cases led by Omicron mutant. Usama Yati.
Eric Adams.
I, Eric Adams.
I, Eric Adams.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution.
That I will support the Constitution.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
The Constitution of the State of New York.
The Constitution of the State of New York.
And the Charter of the City.
And the Charter of the City.
Of New York.
Of New York.
And I will faithfully.
And I will faithfully.
Discharge the duties.
Discharge the duties.
Of the office.
Of the office.
Of the mayor of the City of New York.
Of the mayor of the City of New York.
According to the best of my ability.
To the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
France has banned the use of plastics to package most fruits and vegetables and says the new ban is expected to eliminate about 1 billion items of plastic waste per year. The measure comes as French President Emmanuel Macron introduced a slate of environment rules. Marim Zian.
To protect the environment in France, single-use plastics around some raw fruits and vegetables are officially prohibited starting from New Year's Day. Radish, apples, lemon, and oranges are among the 30 varieties banned from being wrapped in plastic. However, larger packs and chopped fruits will be exempted. The ban was dubbed a real revolution by President Emmanuel Macron, who claimed it demonstrated the country's steadfastness to phase out single-use plastics by 2040.
Pour sortir du plastique à usage unique.
To get out of single-use plastic, we will be the first country. It must be said, we will be the first to no longer have plastic around our fruits and vegetables on January 1st.
À ne plus avoir de plastique autour de nos fruits, de nos légumes.
The Environment Ministry said in a statement announcing the new regulation that France uses a shameful amount of single-use plastics, and that the new prohibition aims to reduce the use of throwaway plastic and increase its replacement by other materials or reusable and recyclable packaging. And the Ministry of Economy's website states that it is no longer legal to manufacture non-biodegradable plastic tea and herbal tea bags, as well as plastic bags that cover newspapers and adverts, and plastic toys on fast food menus. The exhaustive list of measures and bans in France comes as efforts to preserve and protect the environment.
Due to the fires that devastate many areas in Colorado, searching campaigns are still on duty, where according to officials, 3 people is believed to be dead and hundreds of homes destroyed, as Biden declares a national disaster. Islam Sidon, watch follow.
According to authorities, 3 people are missing and suspicions about being dead after a wind-stoked wildfire rode through 2 towns in Boulder County, Colorado, pushing many people to evacuate, where around 1,000 homes were destroyed by the fires. No reports of fatalities or missing residents were reported following the rare urban wildfire that erupted Thursday morning on the northern outskirts of the Denver metropolitan area. Winds in a speed of 160 kilometers per hour pushed flames east into the towns of Superior and Louisville, prompting the evacuation of both communities. Boulder County Sheriff Joe Pilley said the 3 missing people all lived in homes that were destroyed by the blaze.
The structures where these folks would be are completely destroyed and covered with about 8 inches of snow. Dogs will be deployed on Sunday to search the dwelling for the corpse.
Police stated that 991 homes in Superior Louisville and in separate parts of the county have been devastated, making it the most destructive wildfire in state history in terms of residences lost. Becky Bollinger, assistant state climatologist at Colorado State University's Climate Center, stated on her Twitter page that grasses were aided to thrive by a wet spring in 2021.
It's not just the weather happening today. The ingredients for a devastating wildfire have been coming together since last spring. A very wet spring 2021 helped grow the grasses. A very dry summer and fall dried the grasses out and prepared the kindling.
Officials have reported the fire may have been started by sparks from the downed power lines, collapsed by gale force winds. Detectives are looking into all possibilities to figure out what might cause the fire. According to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, U.S. President Joe Biden has designated the situation as a national disaster, freeing up federal money to assist affected people and companies in recovery operations.
China has officially reopened its embassy in Nicaragua 3 weeks after the latter severed ties with Taiwan and recognized Chinese sovereignty over it. Nicaraguan Foreign Minister Denise Moncada welcomed the Chinese decision, stressing the importance of cooperation between the two countries. Moreover, the latest international news in this roundup by Marwa Bleur.
Tunisia has launched a wide-ranging national consultation process that will help in drafting a new constitution, part of a reform package pushed by President Kais Saied, who is seeking to bolster his authority. The exercise called on citizens to send suggestions through electronic platform from January 1st to March 20th. The constitutional referendum is planned for July 25th, exactly a year after Saied sacked the government, suspended parliament and seized wide-ranging powers. The head of the military junta in Chad set Friday for February 15th the start of the Inclusive National Dialogue, supposed to reconcile the Chadians and lead the presidential and legislative elections during his first televised vows at the head of the country. Mohamed Idriss Deby promised a dialogue without taboos and sovereign, which will begin on February 15, 2022, and whose conclusions will be fully enforceable. A new constitution will be adopted by referendum, and general, transparent, free, credible and democratic elections will be organized. At the end of the dialogue, Mohammed added. Germany has pulled the plug on 3 of its last 6 nuclear power stations as it moves towards completing its withdrawal from nuclear power as it turns its focus to renewables. The government decided to speed up the phasing out of nuclear power following Japan's Fukushima reactor meltdown in 2011, when an earthquake and tsunami destroyed the coastal plant in the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl in 1986. The last 3 nuclear power will be turned off by the end of 2022. The European Union has drawn plans to label some natural gas and nuclear energy projects as green investments after a year-long battle between governments over which investments are truly climate-friendly. The European Commission is expected to propose rules in January deciding whether gas and nuclear projects will be included in the EU Sustainable Finance Taxonomy. By restricting the green label to truly climate-friendly projects, the system aims to make those investments more attractive to private capital and stop greenwashing, where companies or investors overstate their eco-friendly credentials.
In a different matter now, and within the economic sectors, a world report by Nabil Khazini.
ExxonMobil Corporation was granted another oil loan from the U.S. strategic reserves under President Joe Biden's effort to ease pain at the gasoline pump. Exxon was awarded 2 million barrels as part of the crude exchange program announced in November, after gasoline prices touched a 7-year high. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, the latest grant brings the total awarded to date to 7 million barrels, or 22% of the maximum amount on offer of 32 million. Tens of thousands of people woke up on Christmas Day to doubled wages and a higher than expected bank balance after Santander Bank mistakenly made a deposit of 176 million into accounts held by its UK customers. The bank confirmed that some payments were accidentally doubled and it would now like the money to be brought back. Chinese telecommunications giant Huawei announced it expects revenue for this year will come in at $99 billion. This makes a 28.9% drop from a year ago. Huawei has been caught in the crossfire of a US-China trade and technology rivalry after the administration of former President Donald Trump moved to break the company over concerns it could pose a cybersecurity and espionage threat. Prices of household electricity and natural gas in Turkey raised amid the surge in global energy prices. The cost of electricity will soar as much as 130% for some households, while natural gas price jumped 25% for residential use and 50% for industrial use in January.
To sports now, Pep Guardiola's side fell behind this time for only 45 minutes when Bakayo scores for the Gunners to take the lead. However, the game was turned upside down during 7 chaotic second-half minutes when Riyad Mahrez converted the 57th minute penalty to level things up. A stoppage time goal from Rodrigo ensured Manchester City beat 10-man Arsenal in a lively encounter to go 11 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola praised his player for showing character despite being low on energy, but admitted that Arsenal were a better team in their clash over the Emirates Stadium. Let's have a listen.
Congratulations. They were better. We faced a team like in the last years struggled to be in the top 4, and they start this season being in the bottom. And they are in top 4, and they have 6-7 days after the last game for Norwich. We have 2 days and a half, and Brentford was so tough. Come back to Manchester, come back, and we didn't have energy.
To this end, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a recap for our main stories. Positive test rate in Australia hits 20% high as Omicron cases surge. Hospitalization climbed to more than 1,000 in New South Wales. First time since Omicron variant emerged as number of PCR tests drops down. A major fire broke out at South Africa's seat of parliament in Cape Town early Sunday, sending a thick column of smoke into the sky and threatening the National Assembly building. Flooding in Oman triggered by heavy rainfall that began on New Year's Eve has killed 6 people and left several towns completely cut off. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has said in his New Year message that he wants to see an end to the conflict in the east of the country. That's all what we have grasped for now. See you at 6. Bye-bye.